Hey, this is Corey from Reliance. We're going to continue with the 100 prepper items. We are talking about DIY tools. So if you're new to this list, I broke tools into 3 different categories. So we already did the beginner tools that I think everybody needs. Everybody, like as in everybody. These are going to be DIY tools. These are going to be tools that if you like to do things yourself, if you want to be a little bit more self-reliant, if you want to be more prepared, these are more prepared related items. This is going to be the list for you. And then the third list is going to be advanced tools. Those are going to be tools that if you really want to be self-sufficient and not hire others, you're going to want to pay attention to that list. So make sure to thumbs up this video, to share it out, and subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss the entirety of this list. And with that being said, let's jump into the very first item. All right, so I'm going to mention a lot of things that probably are not mentioned in a lot of other prepper videos, but I think that they're very important. As in my first pick, which is a caulking gun. No one ever talks about this, and it is such an important prepper tool because of everything that this can do. You can put silicone in here to seal up windows, seal up drafts, seal up different things that are going to help keep you warm, keep you cool. Or if there's a draft in your window, you can run silicone around the edges to seal it up and keep the cool or the hot in. You can put roofing tar in here. You can put liquid nail in here to hold things together. There's so many different things that you can use inside this caulking gun, whether it's even resins, adhesives, sealants, roof patch. I mean, there's so many things that this can do, and no one ever talks about it. One of the things I like about this one is it rotates, so I can spin this all the way around. And so when I'm trying to get into different angles, I can spin it very easily without having to take the tube and twist it. I can just do whatever I need to do, so it makes life a lot easier. The other thing I like about it is we're going to do 10 pumps. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You can see that it hasn't traveled very far, so I can get a little bit out at a time, so it's not just gushing out. It gives me a lot more control. This is a lot more controlled caulking gun. You can go to the store and get just a basic. I think this one was like $5, if that. But now if we do the 10 squeeze on this one, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you can see that we're over halfway, right? And so this one you gotta kind of see, it's not moving here. This one doesn't give you as much control. So a lot of people, and it doesn't spin, it's just very basic. A lot of people that are good at using caulking and they use it all the time, this is good enough. They can do exactly what they need to do with this. What I have found is that people that are new to caulking, they'll get one of these because a lot of pros use this because they use it and then they throw it away and then they get a new one. But they've practiced and they've gotten really good at using this. When a beginner uses something like this and they don't have that fine control that you get with this one, they make a mess, right? And it's not because they are just horrible at it. It's because they're not experienced. They don't have the practice and the precision and the understanding of how lightly you need to squeeze this trigger to get it to move out the amount of caulking that you need. Like everything you do in this gun right here is all about how much you squeeze the trigger. It's all muscle memory, right? How much you squeeze the trigger, how you rotate it, how you release it, rotate it, put it back, put it in the right angles at the right time. This just doesn't have, it's not as intuitive, right? This takes a lot more skill to use, even though it is cheaper. So everybody automatically goes, oh, if I'm a beginner, I'm going to buy the cheapest one because it's what I can afford, and then I'll practice with it, and then I'll buy a good one. And using that one is a lot harder than using this one because, like I said, with this one, if you have the wrong angle, you just move it over, right? You can just move it. You can put it right in the corner, right? Because you can twist it. You just put it right in the corner. And if you squeeze a little too hard, it's not all gushing out. If you squeeze a little bit too hard, it just comes out a little bit faster, right? And so once you get comfortable, once you know what to look for, once you can see it filling the gap, once you get comfortable with this one, which is more expensive, which isn't fair because you would think that somebody just getting started shouldn't spend all this money. But if you spend the money and you practice and you get good and you break this one, then you can go to the cheap ones. I don't use this one. I use this one. I like having the control. I don't silicone things every single day. I don't roof tar every single day. That's the other thing. If you're going to do roof tar, you probably want this one because then you can glob it on real thick. Same thing with liquid nail. You can glob it on real thick with this, where this one you'd have to squeeze a whole bunch. So each one of them has a different purpose, but make sure that you understand that there is a difference, and make sure that you get one of these things because, like I said, they're so versatile. Even if you get like a crack in a window, right? You can get sealer for windows and you can put it on there, seal it. It's not going to look nice. It's not going to last forever, but it can get you by until you can afford a new window. It'll get you by until you can reshingle the roof. It'll get you by until you can actually fix whatever it is you need to fix. And so why do people not talk about these? These are so handy. They're so versatile. You would think every single prepper channel would be just talking about a caulk gun. All right, so number 2 are Allen keys, Allen wrenches, whatever you call them. I have Imperial and metric. These, no one talks about these because a lot of things that you buy come with one. The problem with the ones that you get is they're so short. They're so small, you can't really get a lot of leverage on them. So let me grab a normal sized one here. You can see that this one is much longer. And so you can really get a lot more leverage on this. You can, if you're going to buy like IKEA and Walmart furniture, because of that extra leverage, you can strip out the screws, which is why they give you that little tiny one that you can't get any pressure on. It's really hard to tighten everything. So you don't want to crank down on this one like you do the little small ones, but it's so much easier to use because of all of this leverage and the length. You can get into an area and really apply a lot of force. And so I also like the ones with the little ball on the end, and so that you can kind of get like a 20-degree angle and it still works. So if you're going up into a corner or something, you can still use it. But the other advantage to this is all of the Allen keys that I need, or Allen wrenches, are right here, right? Or right here, depending on which one I need. But I have what I need. Those little tiny wrenches, the Allen keys that come in all of the furniture, even this chair came with one. My son's gaming chair, everything comes with one. And you never know which one's for what. Right? And so you put them all in a box, you put them all in a bag, you put them all wherever you put them, and then you have to sit and you have to test every single one to try to find the right size. This one, it's labeled, right? So if I know that if this one's too big, I need to go smaller. If it's too small, I need to go bigger, right? And so I can have exactly what I need when I need it, and then I'm not checking 40 different wrenches for all the different things I bought. Right? I have what I need when I need it, and so this makes life a lot easier. And the reason I'm adding it in this list, in the preparedness list, is because one of my big motivations for being a prepper is taking care of what I have. Because if I take care of it, I'm going to have it when I need it. Right? This chair right here, if there was a global collapse right now and everything was on fire and I had to bunker down, I have a chair. I have a comfortable chair that I can sit in. If people come over, I have chairs for them to sit in. I have tables. I have all of these things that are available to me. And if I take care of them, they'll be available for a long time, right? I can be 2-3 years into a collapse. And if I maintain the chair that I'm sitting in right now, it's still going to be there for me. I'm still going to be able to use it. I'm still going to be able to wheel around. If I hurt my leg, I can use this as a makeshift wheelchair. People can push me around in it. Just by taking care of what you already have and making sure that you can utilize it for years and years and years, regardless of the situation. Having it, taking care of it, knowing you can rely on it is one of the things that I think preparedness people neglect, and I think that we really should be focusing on it, right? Same with the tools themselves. If you take care of these tools, you can fix everything in your house, which means your house is going to withstand whatever else is going on. If you take care of the tools will take care of your things, and you can rely on those things to help you get through whatever it is you're going through. And so by maintaining, upkeeping, doing whatever it is you need to do to make sure that what you already own lasts the rest of your life, ideally, if it could last the rest of your life, if I don't ever have to buy another office chair, that's money that I'm not spending. I'm not spending money on on upgrading my office chair or replacing my office chair. There's money that I can allocate to different things that are more important or that are, will make my life better or easier. And at the same time, it's something that I can rely on because I know I took care of it. I know I maintained it. I know it's always going to be there for me. And so take care of your shelves, take care of your chairs, take care of your equipment that you need to take care of. Even there's a lot of tools and things, even like your circular saw and stuff, or need an Allen key to get the blades off of. And so having what you need to maintain your stuff is very important, in my opinion. All right, so next on the list is pliers. Some of the most famous kind of pliers is needle nose pliers. To be completely honest with you, I hardly ever use these at all. The ones that I use the most, honestly, is the channel locks. They're not channel locks. These are Crescent. Channel locks is a company, but just like people say, can you hand me a Kleenex? It's a tissue, but Kleenex is the brand. Channel locks is the brand. These are tongue and groove pliers. These are the ones I use the most because what I'm taking apart the most is the P-trap in our sinks, right? So when you get clogs and different things, these open really wide and you can take those. They're supposed to be hand tight, but stuff gets in there and they get tight. This, I can loosen them up, get the P-trap off, and then I can clear it out, or I can get whatever went down there that wasn't supposed to go down there. And so this is what I use probably the most. You can use it for grabbing hot things. You can use it for bending things. It works really well. Another famous type of pliers is the slip joint pliers. This is probably my second most used pair of pliers because you can use it to grab onto nuts and bolts and, again, bend things and twist things and hold on to things while you're doing something else. And so I really like the slip joint pliers. The linesman pliers are really nice. They have a cutter built into them and they pinch really well, really tight, and so you can really grip onto stuff. I really like these a lot. When I'm bending something or if I'm grabbing something and twisting it, I like this because it has such a flat surface. A lot of these they have grippers, and so they're not really, they don't hold tight because they're not flat enough, where this is really flat and there's a lot of surface area, so I can really grab onto something and twist it or break it off or do whatever it is I need to do. So I really like the linesman pliers. My two most used, well, my three most used, first is going to be the tongue and groove. Second is going to be the slip joint because there's always nuts and bolts and wing nuts and stuff. And then the third is the lineman for electrical and grabbing and breaking tabs off of things and cutting bale wire and zip ties and stuff. So these are probably the three that I use the most. It comes in a set, which everything I list in today's video and all of the top 100 items will be linked. It's an affiliate link in the description box down below. And pliers are very important because, like I said, they help you maintain with different things. They help you tighten things that are loose, but they also let you take things apart, right? And so if something's not working quite right, you can take it apart, see what's wrong with it, put it back together, and you don't need all of the specialty tools, right? There's a lot of specialty tools for different appliances, for different things, but usually if you have a good set of pliers, you can usually get it done. It's not ideal, right? When you have a hose clamp or something, yes, it's nice to have a hose clamp pliers. I don't have a hose clamp pliers, but it would be nice to own one to get hose clamps off. But you can do the same thing with this. You can use the slip joint pliers for holding on to nuts and bolts. Yes, it chews into them. Yes, it can round them off. No, it's not ideal. It's better to have the specialty tool that was made for the job, but I'm not going to spend $1,000 on a bunch of tools that I'm only going to use once, right? I'm going to spend my money, personally, I'm going to spend my money on the tool that, no, it's not the right tool, but it can get the job done. And so have a good set of pliers. Next on the list is a hammer. Now, having a hammer, some people think it's becoming obsolete. There's more and more people using screws for more and more things. I even saw recently that there are trim screws. So they have a really fine head, and you use them for decorative pieces. So like when you're putting trim on a baseboard or something, you use trim nails usually because it leaves a little tiny hole. Well, now there are trim screws that leave a little tiny hole. And so a lot of people are thinking that hammers are becoming obsolete, but they are not. There's a huge advantage to using nails over screws, and that is that when you have two pieces of wood and you screw them together, they cannot come apart. They stay stuck together, right? Or when you nail them together, they can come apart, right? And so a lot of people use screws to hold things together. The problem is that if there's any movement in that piece, whether humidity and moisture has it swell and move and adjust, or if the hot or cold temperatures make it move and adjust, those screws can, well, one, they can either snap, they'll break, or number two is they'll just bore out the hole and they'll lose their surface area, and so they can't hold anymore. Where a nail, if you've ever heard the saying tough as nails, nails don't break. So when they're together and the wood is moving, or whatever it is moving, even the siding or your shingles is moving around, the nail just moves with it, right? And it also gets tighter as it's getting bent and twisted, and right, it's getting harder for it to come out. So the longer that nail is in there, the harder it is to remove. And so nails still have a very important role in joist hangers, door frames, a lot of things where there's a lot of movement. You want to use nails over screws, and these are things that are very important to maintaining and keeping your home, right? Your siding heats up in the sun, and then it shrinks when it gets cold at night, and so you don't nail siding to your house, you hang siding. You need to make sure that the nail is loose so that that siding can move back and forth as it needs to. And so nails are very important. Here's another fun fact. Have you ever heard the saying, dead as a doornail? Well, like I said before, if you have a door and it's constantly opening and closing and moving, you don't want that nail popping out and that door falling off. And so what they would do is, so you can reuse nails. As long as you can tap them straight again, you can pull them out, tap them straight, use them somewhere else. But a door nail, you don't want that separating. So what they would do is they would nail it through, and then they would bend the nail at a 90-degree angle so it couldn't pull out. Well, when you bent that nail, you couldn't hammer it straight again. And so it was just a dead nail. It wasn't reusable. And so, but it kept that door from falling out. It kept them from separating. And you can use that same method if you have access to the back side of the nail. You can just bend it over and then it won't separate, it won't come out. And so there's a lot of really good reasons to have a hammer, especially if you're taking care of a house, especially if you're taking care of things that expand and contrast. The other thing is if you have to pound a post into the ground, you're not going to do that with a drill or a screwdriver. You're going to use a hammer to pound that post into the ground. You can also use the claw end to pry things apart. So if you have two things that are stuck together, you can pry them apart with the claw end. You can chisel away at stuff with the claw end. And so there's so many good uses for a hammer. And so I still think, even though more and more people are switching over to screws and screws are kind of taking over the world, I still think it's very important to have a hammer. All right, so next is going to be a level. Now a level can do three things. Most people don't realize this, but a level does three things very well. Number one, make sure that things are level. Number two is you can test pitch, right? So if you're working on your plumbing or something, you don't want it to be level because all the water will pool in there. You want it to be pitched so that all the water runs towards the main drain. And so you might want to use something bigger for that. The third thing that it does is it makes sure that things are straight, right? So when you put this up against something, you don't see any gaps along the edge, that's good. It means that it's straight. If you put it against there and you can see light through here, or it's rocking back and forth, it's not straight. And so making sure that the things that you are working on, fixing, maintaining are straight, level, or pitched properly is very, very important. It can save you from having a lot of water damage. It can save you from having from your pictures not looking pretty on the wall, but it can also save you from a lot of things that you build structurally. You want to make sure that they're level so that they can withstand the test of time, right? If they're tilted a little bit, that gravity is going to work against it. Where if it's perfectly level and the pillars are perfectly straight, gravity is going to be helping anchor it to whatever it is you're working on, or whatever it is you built, or whatever it is. Gravity is going to be helping keep it in place, where if it's tilted, it's not going to be long until it falls over or it gets damaged. And so making sure that you have proper level for strength, proper pitch for drainage, and things that are flat and straight and doing what they need to do is very important. And so you don't just need a little level, you need different size levels. I only own these two levels. This one's for pictures and plumbing. This does very well. This one's for building stuff. And so this is what I use when I'm building different things, or when I'm building up. Same thing with my deck. Like a deck, I put a slight pitch on it, like a very slight pitch, so that when the water goes, it runs off it and it's not running towards the house, right? But you don't want water collecting on your deck and then running towards the house. You want it running away from the house. And so keep all of that in mind. Levels do more than just keep things level. All right, so a miter box, so a saw. Everybody needs a saw, right? Everybody should have a saw for cutting pieces. The thing is when something like the foot on your couch breaks, right? Instead of buying a brand new couch, you can just go to the lumber yard, grab a 4x4. You can even get them like 12 inches long, like a foot. So 4x4 by 1 foot long, and then cut it to length and then put it in there. Yes, you're not going to have the decorative foot that was there originally, but you do have something there that's going to get you by probably forever, right? I use 4x4s on my couch because my couch wasn't built very well, so I got it for free because it was damaged, because it wasn't built very well. So what I did is I got it for free, and then I went and I got a 4x4 and I made my own legs for it so that I could, because it's a sectional, right? Well, they didn't put legs, they put legs in the four corners of each sectional, but it flops in the middle. And so what I did is I bought a 4x4 and I shored up all the different places where it would sag real bad, and I shored all those up. And so now I have a really nice couch that I didn't pay anything for. I just had to buy a 4x4 and make my own feet for it. And having a saw to do that made it very easy. So you can see that this is a miter box that helps you make perfect 90-degree cuts, or you can put it in this slot and make 45-degree cuts. The saw, you can use my level. You see how this saw is perfectly flat, which is very important because you know it's going to make very straight cuts. The spine of the knife is reinforced, so there's no flex in this blade. It stays perfectly straight even as I'm sawing. And so this makes life easy. In comparison, I want to show you this. So in comparison, this is a Japanese pull saw. This is what everybody loves. I love this thing. It's great. But you can see the flex, right? It's very, very flexible. And so sometimes when I'm cutting, the blade will flex on me and I'll get a rounded cut, right? Because I'm not pulling perfectly back and forth. I'm kind of at an angle and this thing is doing whatever it wants to do. And so having that reinforced edge keeps it nice and straight. Now they do make Japanese pull saws. They're called dovetail saws and they have the reinforced edge for straight cuts. And I might get one of those, but for right now this is working really well for me. Some of the other thing I do a lot is I will use this with this because I like the pull saw better than the push saw. And so I just wanted to show you some of the differences. But being able to cut a straight line is very important because that straight line is going to make sure that, again, if something on your couch breaks, you can create a perfect replica of the broken piece, right? If the front part breaks, if the wood cracks or if it splits in half, you can go and you can get some plywood, create an exact replica of that piece and just replace it, and your couch will look and feel and everything exactly like it did before because you were able to replicate that piece and cut an exact dimension, an exact size, an exact angle, whatever it is you need to do. And so again, it goes back to making sure that your couch, your livelihood, whatever it is that you own that makes you comfortable, whatever it is that you own that you rely on and that you take for granted usually, if you just take care of it and you make sure that it's the best that it can be, you'll always be able to rely on it. Even if all the stores close, even if people stop selling furniture and I can never buy another piece of furniture the rest of my life because that part of the world just disappeared, I'd still have my couch, I'd still have my lazy boy, I'd still have this chair, right? I still get to be comfortable. People moving out on their own for the first time, yeah, they're not going to have furniture, but I will because I prepared. I made sure I had the tools I needed to keep, maintain, and fix the things that I have, and so that I don't ever have to go without, right? And that's what personal preparedness is all about. It's about making sure that when everybody else is struggling and everybody else is trying their best with what little they have, we're still comfortable. We've thought about this years, months, days ago, and because of that, we were able to get what we needed when it was still available so we could be as comfortable as possible no matter what happens, right? We can still take care of each other, we can take care of our family, we can take care of our neighbors and the people that we love, all because we got what we needed when it was still available. And so when it's not available anymore, we don't really care because we already got it. All right, so a wrench set is super important. One of the things I told you before with the pliers is that you can put it on a nut or a bolt. Well, you need a wrench on the other side. So when you have it on the nut, this can loosen the bolt, or when you have it on the bolt, this can loosen the nut, or vice versa. And a good wrench set makes sure that, again, you're not marring up the most important part. So if you're loosening and tightening the nut, make sure to put the appropriate wrench on the nut side so that if the bolt gets all gummed up and nasty looking, it doesn't matter. Or if the bolt is on the outside and you want to keep it nice, put the wrench on the bolt and the pliers on the nut, because if the nut gets all nasty looking and messed up, right? The other thing to keep in mind is which one do you have access to. If you have a bunch of nuts that are in a drawer somewhere, put the pliers on the nut, because worst case scenario, you just go and grab one out of the drawer and replace it, right? Or if you have a bolt that you can use, if you have a bunch of bolts, right? Put the pliers on the bolt, because worst case scenario, you just replace that bolt, right? And so make sure you keep that in mind. Just because one is facing the nice side doesn't always make sense that that's the one that you keep nice, right? You want to make sure that if it does get to a point where it's completely rounded off, if something slips and it's unusable, you have the replacement on hand. And last week, or last video, I'm pretty sure we talked about how important hardware is. This goes for that too. These are ratcheting pliers. I do not like these. I don't like these at all. Yes, they are quick and easy, and I like them a lot. What happened to me is I was working on my lawnmower, and so the way these work is this way loosens, and then you flip it over, and this way, well, this way loosens. This loosens, this tightens, right? And so I was working on it, and I was loosening a bolt, right? And it got caught. This was thicker than the bolt had room, and so the bolt was still in the hole, and this was jammed up against a piece of metal, and I had no way of getting this thing out of there. Luckily, the metal I was butt up against was thin enough that I could bend it to get this off, and then I could use the open end to get the bolt out. But if that metal would have been thicker, I would have been stuck, right? And so the only time I use these is when it's wide open. If there is absolutely nothing between what I am on and where I'm going, I'll use this because it's faster. But if there's anything, and I mean anything in between there, I ain't using this, because I don't want to get stuck trying to cut things out, cut the bolt off, right? Because I can't get it out. I can't get this out. And so if I were to buy a ratcheting wrench again, it would have the little clicker on here so that I could manually switch it from tighten to loosen, right? So that if I got to a point where I was stuck, I could flip it to tighten it back up, take this out, and then loosen it the rest of the way with the box end or the open end. And so I don't like those. Here's a stubby set. I recently took apart a dishwasher, and I couldn't get any of my wrenches in there, so I bought a stubby set that could fit in there so that I could loosen the water supply line. This works really well. This is what I keep inside the house. You can get a ratcheting wrench set. Again, links to everything in the description box down below. This will use sockets and a wrench so that you can, it's faster, it's easier, and it's got the little flipper, so if you get stuck, you can just flip it, tighten it, get it out of there, and then use something else. If you don't have anything, I don't suggest starting with a socket set, which goes against everyone and everything, I understand. But again, it's one of those things where if you can use it, it makes life a lot easier. But you can't get these into every little place. And so you have to have this, and you have to have an open end wrench, because that open end will let you get into places, tighten a little bit, put it back in, tighten a little bit. And so sometimes you need that open end wrench, and so you should just get a normal wrench set. In my opinion, the first thing you should get is not even a stubby. Just get a normal wrench set with a box end and an open end. That way you can accomplish whatever it is you need to accomplish, right? You're capable of doing what you need. Yes, it's not easy. Yes, it's going to take a lot more time. It's not going to be it's not the frustration-free option, but you can get the job done, right? And then once you have a standard set of wrenches, then get a socket set, because the socket set's going to make everything easier, faster, way more convenient. And so that's my 2 cents on that. Everybody's going to tell you to get a socket set first. Most people probably already have a socket set. If all you have is a socket set, I suggest getting a normal set, again, not a stubby, a normal set of wrenches so that you have that open end, so that you can get into whatever it is you need to get to. You can get into such tighter places with an open end wrench than you can with a socket. And so the other thing with a socket is it's only so deep. So if the bolt is sticking out, so if you have a nut and the bolt is sticking out and the socket isn't deep enough to reach the nut, again, that open end is going to be able to get in there, get it started, and then you can finish it with the socket set, or you can finish it with the open end wrench. Again, the open end is going to make sure that you can get the job done. The socket set's going to get the job done easier if it's possible to do it with a socket set. So open end wrenches, I think, are the more appropriate thing to start with, even though everyone's going to disagree with me. The next tool in the DIY category is a putty knife. If you're going to live anywhere, you're going to get dings in your walls. You're going to get dings in different things. Having a putty knife to fill those dings up is nice. You just buy a tub of that pink stuff that turns white when it dries, and you use the little 2-inch. I like the 2-inch. Most, if not all, putty knives, especially the flexible ones, are curved. They have a curve to them. So one side is going to overfill the hole. The other side is going to leave a dip. Okay, so I put an X on my putty knives, and so I know if I'm staring at the X, I'm filling the hole. There's a lot of times where they'll fill a hole, sand, and then there'll be a little dip. So they'll fill the hole, sand, there's still a little dip. Well, it's because you're using the wrong side of your knife, or your putty knife. Flip it over. The way that I test it is I'll put it on the wall, a flat wall, and I'll push on it. And because it's curved, if I push on it and I can feel it flexing, I know that's the concave or the convex side. If I flip it over and I can't push, then I know that I'm on the concave side. And so I just flip it, and as soon as I can feel that give, I put an X on it so that I know that when I'm staring at the X, I'm filling. And so then you overfill it a little bit, and then you can sand it smooth instead of always dipping out from the other side. And so this is important for little touch-ups. More important is being able to cut holes in your wall. All right? There's so many times where you think there's a leak. You think you hear something in the wall. You think, and your imagination starts to run wild, and you don't know what's happening inside that wall. Well, if you have the proper tools, you can cut a hole in that wall, look, see what's going on, fix whatever is going on inside that wall, and then just fix it, and then just drywall over it, and no one is the wiser. Nobody knows that you cut the hole in that wall. No one knows that what you did inside of there, right? And so the reason I think that this stuff is important, especially in this DIY category, is because it gives you the confidence to cut open that wall. And there's been the one time I'll tell you, I could hear this little like hissing noise inside the wall, and I was like, it doesn't make sense why it would hit. We do have gas, but the gas is only for the water heater and the furnace, and this wall didn't even have a vent or anything in it. And I'm like, what is that? Well, because I had the tools and I was confident that I can use these tools, I cut a hole in the wall, and there was a pipe in there, and the pipe was leaking just this little pinhole, and it was just the water was just leaking out. It was spraying out. And because I heard it and I cut it open, I was able to dry it out. I put a fan in there. I was able to seal up those pipes, turn the water off, of course, prevent it from getting worse, dry it all out, fix that pipe, put the drywall back. And it was just because of my confidence that I knew I could fix that wall if I cut a hole in it, that I was able to prevent any further damage. It could have mold, mildew, the wood inside of there could have started to rot. I mean, I could have had a serious problem. But because I was confident that I could fix a hole in the wall, prevented that situation from getting any worse. And I think that that's super important. Or if you have to cut a hole in the wall to move a couch through, or a bed through, or if you did move the couch and it didn't fit and you forced it, now there's a big hole in your wall. Knowing you can fix that easily saves you a lot of stress, saves you a lot of arguing and, ruining relationships. And so get the tools, learn how to use them, because it really is, it saves relationships. It saves your imagination from running wild. It saves you from having to deal with situations that could have easily been prevented. So here I have a hawk, okay? What I see in a lot of situations is somebody will buy a tub of that pink stuff that turns white, or they'll buy a tub of all-purpose compound, and then they'll work out of the bucket. The problem is that whatever you get, here I'm going to spoil it for you, whatever you get on your trowel or your putty knife, you're putting in that bucket. And then when you go to spread that, it could even be dry chunks of compound, or it could be dog hair or cat hair or just dirt or whatever it is. It gets in there and then it's contaminated, and then you can't get it smooth because you got all this junk in your mud, and it creates a nightmare, right? So I use a hawk. Everything goes from the tub to this hawk. I work off the hawk. Even if it's just a little, if I'm doing more than just one little touch up, if I got like 4 or 5 nail holes, I take the pink stuff out of the tub and I put it on this hawk, and I work off the hawk so that I know that tub is perfect, right? There's no contaminants, there's no nothing. So if this is full of dog hair, if it's full of dried compound, I just wash this, and then I go to my tub and I get to start all over fresh, right? Worst case scenario, I throw all this away, and then I get to start over new with new stuff from the bucket, and that saves you such a headache. This is the one that I use the most. There is an X on it, but it's wearing off, so I got to reapply that. 4 inches. This is if I have a hole in the wall that I cannot fix with that 2 inch, I usually use the 4 inch. If I'm taping, if I cut a hole in the wall and I'm taping it shut, I use this all of the time. This is the one that I use probably the most, other than the 2 inch, because the 2 inches, accidents happen. That 2 inch will do it. If I'm doing real drywall, I always start with the 4 inch. Always. The 4 inch is what gets all of the work done, and I work off of this hawk to get whatever I need to do. The other thing I want to show you is this. This is a game changer. If you want to see a close-ups of any of this stuff, again, there are links in the description box down below to Amazon. This radius right here, the exact radius of a 5-gallon bucket. So I don't usually buy the all-purpose mud in the tub. I mix my own, so I buy the bag of either 90 or 45-minute powder, and then I add water, and I mix it myself in a 5-gallon bucket. And this makes sure that I get all of that compound out of that bucket and onto my hawk. And this thing is awesome. The amount of mud I was wasting just because I couldn't get it out of the bucket, this lets me get every little bit out of that bucket. So I can mix less because I'm using everything I'm mixing. I don't have that throwaway of the stuff I can't get out of the bucket. So I can mix less and get more out of what I buy. And because I'm getting it all out with this thing is paid for itself over and over and over and over and over again. I had to redo the bathroom, and I had to do that little pinhole thing, and this thing has paid for itself a bunch of times. I really, really appreciate that tool right there. When I'm done with the 4-inch knife, I go to a 6-inch knife, and you can see there's a little X right there, so I know to be staring at the X to fill. The 6-inch knife, the 6-inch putty knife just helps blend everything. After the 6-inch, you can usually, it looks flat. Like you look at it and you're like, all right, that looks flat, right? But you can usually feel the hump right? You can usually feel that there's something there. And so from there, I go to the 12-inch trowel. I got this one on purpose. This is a 12 by 4. So all that is level 5. This is anvil. It doesn't matter what brand you get. I don't care. I like level 5 because it's stainless and so it doesn't rust. And so I can use it over and over and over again and I don't have to worry about it rusting. And it can sit, right? So I haven't used this stuff in a long time and it's still perfectly fine. It's not rusting and I don't have to worry about humidity and stuff getting to it. But this one, I picked the 4 because if I screw up, which I screw up a lot, believe it or not, I can just use it as a normal putty knife. So this is 4-inch, this is 4-inch. So instead of going and finding this and fixing my mistake, if I'm on this stage, I just use this as a 4-inch putty knife. And then once that dries and I sand it, then I can just use this. And then I'm not getting all of my stuff dirty again. And so it saves me time on cleanup and it saves me time looking for things that I haven't used in a while. So I really like this. This is not stainless and this is rusting, which sucks, but I don't really take care of this stuff because the level 5 stuff doesn't rust. I thought this was stainless. It just says it's a finishing trowel, so I guess it's not. But I like using this over, you can buy putty knives that are 12 inches long. I don't like using them because it's awkward for me to hold it, you know, and do what I need to do. It's awkward on my wrist. Where this, I can just tilt it whatever way I need it. So I can tilt it and just go wherever I need it to go. And so I would prefer the trowel for the 12-inch over the putty knives. But yeah, just having that confidence makes this stuff worth owning. All right, so if you're going to be putting holes in your walls, you need to paint and fix those. You're going to need a paintbrush and rollers. Now, I'm not the painter. Caroline does all of the painting. I don't know where she put the brushes and the rollers. I know that we own them because if I asked her for them, she would go get them and she would do the painting, okay? Not only can you paint walls, right, by painting tools and metal pieces and wood, you preserve it, right? You seal it off from the elements. You can make it waterproof. You can make it watertight. You can make sure that nothing gets into it. It doesn't rust. It doesn't contaminate. And so by painting things, you're not just making it look nice. You're making it last as long as you possibly can. You're preventing it from rusting. You're preventing it from getting worse. You're preventing it from rotting. And so painting is very important. A lot of old timers would paint their tools because not to make them look nice, but just to preserve them and make them so that they didn't absorb moisture and rust out and bad things happen, right? When you have rust, bad things can happen. Same thing with your car. If you paint your car, it's not there to make it look nice. Well, sometimes if you do a decorative paint job on your vehicle, but the paint and clear coat on your vehicle is to keep it from rusting, keep anything bad from happening to it. It's to preserve the metal that's underneath the paint. It's not just to make it look pretty. But because I can't find Caroline's paint brushes and rollers, I will share with you this tool, which you do not need whatsoever. But this is an extension pole, so you can see it's actually pretty short, and then I can extend it out and it gets very long, and then it has a sanding pad, and so I can sand the walls in between coats and get them nice and smooth. And so that's what I do when she's painting. She'll paint and then I'll go through and I'll sand the walls, get them all nice and smooth, and then she'll do a second coat or a third coat. And this is what I do. She also owns one of these. It's the exact same make, model, everything, but it's the, she puts a roller, right? So the handle of a roller goes on here, and then she can extend it out, and then she can roll the paint onto the wall, and she doesn't need a ladder or a stool or anything. She just puts it to however tall she needs it, because it's got different adjustments. And so she can put it at whatever length she wants. and then she can have it to paint the walls. And so even though this is not necessary, this is not something that you need, it's not, I don't think most people are ever even going to use something like this. I just wanted to show you something, and this is my little cheat code to getting nice, smooth, good looking walls. And so you don't need it. I'm not going to link it in the description box down below unless you absolutely want me to. And I just wanted to show you something. So the next tool is a drill. Now, this is the 10th tool on this list, but I do have a bonus that I want to talk about, so don't go away. I almost put drill on the beginner list because I think everybody needs one. But at the same time, the stuff on that list you can get if you're not going to be doing things yourself, right? If the most extravagant thing you're doing is putting together IKEA furniture or Walmart furniture, a screwdriver is going to be, you're not going to be drilling holes, you're not going to be doing different things. But I kind of regret not putting it on beginner because this does so much more than just drill holes and fasteners. Like here I have a cleaning brush, and so now I have a cleaning brush that I can use to clean different things. You can even use this in the kitchen, and so the makers of this have different colors, and so the white is for like upholstery and cleaning carpets and stuff like that. Then there's green and yellow. One of them's for the bathroom, one of them's for the kitchen. There's black for really aggressive cleaning. And yeah, you can use it as a cleaning tool. The other thing I use it for is I'll put this on there, and I'll use this for mixing paint, mixing drywall compound. Right? And I can put this inside of a bucket, and I can paint drywall compound as long as it's not a lot, right? This thing isn't a miracle worker. I also have a better, bigger drill. But I can mix paint, I can mix drywall mud, I can put pieces in here and I can sand them round. There's so many things you can do with a drill. And again, I'm on the DeWalt platform. I have DeWalt batteries, so everything I buy takes this exact DeWalt battery. The reason that's important to me is because my power stations, so I have a Jackery and a Rockpal power station. There's a lot of tools. I think a drill, like a plug-in drill, takes like 800 watts. And these are only 500 watt power stations, which means I can't run a drill. But they are powerful enough to charge this battery, right? So I can charge this battery and I can put it in this drill, and now I have a drill that I can use. Or I can put it in my saws and my routers and my sanders. And this one battery, if I can charge this one battery, or if this one battery has a charge, I can use all of my tools with just this one battery. And that's important to me. It might not be important to you, but that's why all my tools are DeWalt. I'm not sponsored by DeWalt. DeWalt doesn't care that I exist. It's just I don't like the idea of, if I have a Milwaukee drill and DeWalt Impact, right, and the Milwaukee battery dies, well, now I can't drill holes, and so now I can't use my DeWalt driver to drive in the screws, right? And so now I gotta wait for this battery to charge so that I can use so I can use this and I can use that, and it seems like a nightmare to me. With this, if this battery dies, I just grab the battery out of my Impact, put it in here, drill my hole, take the battery out, put it in my Impact, drive in my screw. Easy. Easy peasy. And again, there's so many more things you can do with a drill. I can't even name them all right now. You can put a sanding disc on here. You can put a wire wheel on here and get rust off of a trailer, which is something we might have to do here soon. There's so many things you can do with a drill. I should have put it on the beginner list. I didn't. I kind of regret it, but at least it's here. At least you know about it, and I feel it's very important. All right, so the bonus item isn't really a tool, which is why I made it a bonus item, but it will help protect your tools, and that's WD-40. So this is just standard WD-40. It stops squeaks, removes and protects, loosens rusty parts, frees sticky mechanisms, drives out moisture. This is going to help if you have a squeaky hinge, if you have things that are rusted together, if you have a nut and bolt that are rusted together. This is a good penetrating fluid. It penetrates in, it dissolves a lot of the stuff in there so that you can get things apart. It's easy to put things back together. This works really well. I also use the silicone quick drying. This waterproofs, protects against rust, and it's multi-surface, usable. I like this. This is what I put on my tools. I like the silicone coating. Yes, it's not the best. Yes, it wears off instantly once you use it, but it works, and it helps prevent things from rusting. It helps waterproof things. The other thing with silicone is it doesn't freeze, right? And so before winter, I like to put this inside the door locks of my vehicles, and so that, because sometimes the door lock will freeze up and then you can't get your key in there, I'll spray it with this, and this will draw the moisture out and it'll keep it waterproof so that the moisture just runs off of all those pins and everything inside of there. And so this works really well for preventing things from freezing up, because again, it waterproofs them and it prevents rust, it prevents things from jamming up. And so WD-40, it's been around forever. People have been using it forever for tons of different things. I wanted to show you the silicone. They have lots of different kinds of WD-40. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people think that WD-40 is just WD-40. That's not true. WD-40 has a lot of different stuff. WD-40 is the brand, and then they make a penetrating oil. They make a quick drying silicone. They make an electric connector spray. There's a lot of different kinds of sprays, and so don't sleep on WD-40. There's a lot of things that you can do with the standard, and if you get some of the specialty sprays, you can really take care of your tools, your equipment, your gear. You can really take things apart a lot easier. You can put things back together easier. You can do so much with this spray, and so I wanted to mention it here. I wanted to mention that there was different kinds, and so with that being said, that is the end of this video. Next, we are going to do the advanced tools, so stay tuned for that, where I go into some. The thing with advanced tools is they're pretty expensive, and so not everyone's going to need them, not everyone's going to want them, but if you want to know how to be even more self-reliant, if you want to know how to be even more prepared than you are right now, thumbs up this video so more people can see it. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I cannot wait to see you on the next one.